From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Olumide Macaulay.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, flights finally resume at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, following suspension over COVID-19 concerns in March. Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu launches campaign for a second term in office in Akure, the state capital, ahead of the October 10th governorship election. Police in Delta State investigate circumstances in the murder of a 36-year-old woman after her body was discovered in a shallow grave in Asaba. And Australian police arrest dozens of anti-lockdown protesters attended by hundreds nationwide. Plus, business and sports.
On business news tonight, Central Bank of Nigeria sets 10 billion naira loan cap for businesses approved to access the 250 billion naira gas sector intervention fund.
And on sports news tonight, Kenya's Peres Jepchirchir sets a new women-only half-marathon world record after completing a 21.1-kilometer course in Prague in 1 hour, 5 minutes and 34 seconds.
We begin in the aviation sector as it's affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. International flight operations in Nigeria have resumed after 5 months of lockdown and 2 of postponement. A Middle East airline flight from Lebanon, which landed at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, signaled the formal reopening of Nigeria's air border to commercial operations. Our correspondent, Bukola Joe-Ketumbi, reports.
From the skies, the aircraft operated by Middle East airline from Lebanon descends into Lagos and finally taxis into a traditional water cannon salute at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. With over 200 passengers and 15 crew, those on board exit through the E-finger. This time, fan officials guide them through the protocols.
After 1 or 2 postponements, the D-Day has finally come. And the most important thing is we are well prepared. And honestly, when I say well prepared, we are well prepared. We've put so many protocols in places, both FAN, NCDC, Port Health, just to ensure that people feel confident traveling through the airport.
In batches of 20, they are attended to at the port of entry, where a PCR COVID-19 certificate is key to acceptance, although authorities had to give passengers who could not access the Nigerian portal a hard copy of the information form, while some others said access to the portal was easy.
It was easy. It was not bad. It was quite straightforward. I had it by email. It was sent by, the invoice was sent by email, yes.
The protocols also received positive feedback.
It's easy, it is organized, but I believe with time things will be more, let me say, more easy.
For those who arrived, especially this young child, it's good to be back to a place called home.
I like Nigeria most because like here I have more friends than Lebanon. I've been in this country for 6 years.
As passengers exit the immigration area, picking their luggage is top priority. And from this area, they're expected to head to the car park as there's no room for relatives to receive anyone in front of the terminal. From the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Bukola Joe-Ketumbi, Channels Television News.
Even as international flights resume, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is calling for an equitable and affordable deployment of the COVID-19 vaccine across the globe rather than on the basis of the highest bidder. Professor Osinbajo made this call on Friday at the virtual 2020 Euro-Africa Forum on a realistic Euro-Africa partnership during and beyond the COVID-19 era. Speakers at the summit included UN Secretary-General Mr. Antonio Guterres and the Prime Minister of Cape Verde. According to the Vice President, this is a matter that should not be taken for granted. We saw during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in richer parts of the world that orders for test kits and reagents by African countries were deemed too small and tended to be ignored. Amongst other objectives, the Euro-African Forum aims to foster stronger collaboration between Europe and Africa and better promote a shared green and inclusive growth. To politics, supporters and leaders of the All Progressives Congress, APC, from 18 local government areas of Ondo State converged on the main bowl of the Akure Township Stadium for the party as it flagged off its campaign for the state governorship election. Addressing the gathering, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and his Yobe State counterpart, Mai Malabuni, are asking them to come out en masse on October the 10th and vote for Governor Rotimi Akeredolu so that he will consolidate the good work he started 4 years ago.
The Ondo State Sports Complex in Akure, the state capital, comes alive as supporters and leaders of the All Progressives Congress APC from within and outside the state join governors of Lagos, Ekiti, Nasarawa, Kwara, Kano, Niger, Plateau, as well as Kebbi State for the formal flag-off of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu's second-term bid. Addressing party faithful at the event, the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and his Ekiti counterpart, Kade Fayemi, appreciate the people for their love and support for Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, asking them to vote massively for him again on October the 10th.
Ondo State is receiving a progressive man that has brought about real development. We will see you in October for a resounding victory for Aketi, A-K-I-T-I himself. All my brother governors are here to let you know that they are completely in solidarity with the people of Ondo State. The continuity of good governance in Ondo State.
The acting national chairman of the APC, Mai Malabuni, believes Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has done well for the people of the state and deserves a second term.
His Excellency Governor Akeredolu has eased our jobs because he has delivered. I know the people of Ondo will make the good choice and will appreciate His Excellency by voting him for the second term.
For Governor Akeredolu, vigilance is the word, as he advises Ondo residents to turn out en masse on election day and vote for the APC.
We've all come from different units and wards. Let us get back and work. No one should be left behind. Let's all vote for APC on October the 10th. We will defeat them with our votes. The PDP and ZLP are planning to rig the election. We must not allow them to rig. Go and vote and monitor your votes. They cannot stand us, so let us go and vote for our party.
The acting national chairman of the APC, Mai Malabuni, then presents the flag of the APC to Governor Akeredolu as he prepares to hit the ground running.
And while Governor Akeredolu gears up to actualize his quest for a second term in office, the opposition People's Democratic Party is having other ideas. Some leaders of the PDP have also met in Ibadan, the capital of neighboring Oyo State, to acknowledge that the task of unseating the APC in Ondo State is enormous. After the meeting, which also had in attendance the PDP governorship candidate, Mr. Ayitayo Jegede, the party's national organizing secretary said nothing will be taken for granted in the quest to reclaim Ondo State. The Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde, who hosted the meeting, explained that it's aimed at strategizing to ensure victory for the PDP at the poll.
The meeting basically is for the National Campaign Council for Ondo 2020 governorship election. So these are the people in charge of the subcommittees for the National Campaign Council. So we came here to strategize and also to put our house in order. We are set. We are not taking anything for granted. We are working very hard. We are determined to get in there, and we believe there is a lot of work to be done, and we are ready for that. Ondo people know that PDP is the next government that will take over the state. So we are working very hard to make sure that we get there. Our messaging will be clear, and everybody will know.
To Edo State, the Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has vowed that he will end the political career of his predecessor on September the 19th. Governor Obaseki made this boast during a rally in Oredo local government area as the PDP governorship campaign trail completes its tour of the 192 wards of Edo State.
The Ogba Scout Playground is a beehive of activities, a cultural troupe, a live band and the stage all combine to create the right atmosphere for electioneering.
Now listen, Godwin Obaseki. Godwin Obaseki. We must vote time again and again. Let's go.
The PDP governorship campaigns across the state for the Obaseki Shaibu re-election bid is in the last lap. Oedo, the terminal local government area. The day's activities soon get to the business end. The campaign team is very confident of a second term in office for Governor Obaseki and his deputy, Philip Shaibu.
What our governor has achieved in his first tenure is far greater than what Oshomole did in 8 years. Is that not so?
The governor takes his audience down memory lane in a bid to explain what went wrong between him and his predecessor, Adams Oshomole.
Me, as a sitting governor, Oshomole decides to pick who will represent me in my House of Assembly. Can you imagine the insult? That was where this fight started. Because he believes in his own mind. He says, Benin people are like chicken. When you throw corn, they will run after the corn.
Governor Obaseki pulls no punches as he's reached certain resolutions.
This election is a contest with Oshomole. We have dealt with him at the national level. We will bury him politically in this election. Because he has no regard for Benin people. He has no regard for us in Oredo. And we will show him that he is dirty.
The PDP may have concluded the ward-to-ward tour in Edo State, but they say that the campaign is far from over. Electioneering, they insist, will continue until the Edo governorship election, slated for September the 19th.
We'll have more on the campaigns in Edo State, this time from the APC, in the course of this broadcast. In the meantime, we'll turn our attention to security. The Nigerian Army says it's tamed the activities of bandits in the nation's northwest region following the successful deployment of Operation Sahel Sanity. Addressing a news conference in Faskari local government area of Katsina State, the acting director, Defense Media Operations, Brigadier General Bernard Onyoko, says economic activities have been restored to the region after the dislodgement. He says that troops of the operation killed 100 bandits in the last 2 months when it commenced operations in the region.
The operation has in no small measure affected the economic life of the people of the Northwest Zone of the country positively. The operation was aimed at supporting Operation Hadarindaji to stem the tide of the activities of armed bandits, cattle rustlers, kidnappers, incessant killings, and other sundry crimes in this zone. These acts of criminality orchestrated by bandits has curbed and reduced to its lowest ebb, thanks to the relentless efforts of the troops of Operation Sahel Sanity. There is no gainsaying that the hitherto agricultural, social, and economic lives of the people of this zone by bandits' activities has been restored to normalcy. Normal life has indeed returned to the zone as farming, economic, and social life of the people are being carried out without any form of hindrance and molestation by criminal elements. The tremendous successes achieved since the operation started could not have been made possible without the sacrifice, commitment, and gallantry exhibited by the professional soldiers of the Nigerian Army, some of whom have paid the supreme price within the period under review.
In part 2, after the break, police in Delta State investigate circumstances in the murder of a 36-year-old woman after her body is discovered in a shallow grave in Asaba. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. International flights finally resume at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, following suspension over COVID-19 concerns in March. Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu launches campaign for a second term in office in Akure, the state capital, ahead of the October 10th governorship election. Police in Delta State investigate circumstances in the murder of a 36-year-old woman after her body is discovered in a shallow grave in Asaba. And Australian police arrest dozens at anti-lockdown protests attended by hundreds nationwide. Plus, business and sports. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. And now to Edo State again in politics, where the All Progressives Congress says it remains relentless in its quest to occupy the seat of the governorship space after the votes are counted on the 19th of September. The party's candidate in the polls, Pastor Osage Ezeyamu, at his rally in Edo Central, also promised to breathe new life into development into the rural areas if voted into power.
The morning showers are no deterrent, both for the APC governorship candidate and his strong supporters. Pastor Osage Ezeyamu comes with messages of hope as he seeks their votes ahead of the polls.
On this simple agenda, we talk about market. If you talk, say market now, local government. But if local government not give you a better market, state government not give you now. Urban market for Benue. Now state government na build am. State government. When Agbado market born, now Oshomole na call the build am. Find place he put for them. So only lazy governor or area governor I go talk say you no concern me na local government. So that market, by the grace of God, we go work on am.
Done here, the APC governorship candidate moves on to Ewohimi in Eson Southeast local government. The words may be different, but the message remains constant. The people stand to gain a lot if they cast their votes for Pastor Osage Ezeyamu.
By this simple agenda, what that boy just sing just now, we will develop a way. They mentioned to me some roads we need. By the grace of God, we will do them. this is the time that God has decreed, and by special mercy it will happen. All we want for Edo State and for Ewohimi is that if every governor come and do a little more, another governor come and do a little more, that is how society grow from strength to strength. You will see that whenever you have good road, you will see good houses coming up.
From Ewohimi, the next port of call is Ewato, where the people also defy the rains to welcome the APC campaign team. The APC will be hoping that these people replicate this resilience when it matters most on D-Day, 19th of September.
Elsewhere, the body of a 36-year-old woman has been found buried in a shallow grave close to an apartment within the government-reserved area, part of Asaba, Delta State capital. The lady, identified as Obiangeli Onakase, was allegedly murdered and buried in the shallow grave by her neighbor and gateman. Upon investigations, after she was declared missing 2 weeks ago, her body has been exhumed with inflicted head injuries and several machete cuts all over her corpse.
Two weeks ago, late Obiageli Onakansi was reported missing after her family members got worried and put calls across to her that went unanswered. At that time, the victim was planning for her wedding scheduled to hold in December. On August the 27th, the police stopped a black Toyota Avalon saloon car without papers, driven by a man alleged to be the security guard to the deceased. Further investigations by the police at her residence revealed her body buried in a shallow grave.
From this building now, the DPO and his detectives were done a yeoman job, and they were able to discover a shallow grave where the security man killed and buried that woman in the shallow grave. Of course, in this building, you will discover that it's a four flats apartment, but two tenants were living in that house. This woman and one Nonso Ekene. So that Nonso Ekene, two of them now are in a police net, and they are being interrogated as to how the woman was killed in this house, buried, and nobody can give account of how it's happened.
No words can adequately describe the mood of the family of the deceased. Their only hope is that justice is done.
Her past is missing because they stabbed her and they cut her neck, but they didn't remove her head. So that is exactly what is happening now. But police refuse the press to come in. That is my anger now. The whole world should listen to me. They should come to my rescue. I want justice to be done.
Major concern initially was that we were looking for her, but we have not heard from her for like 2 weeks or so. So we are at least okay now that the body has been found, and we can now give her at least a burial and know that that search has ended. Every other thing surrounding who did it and the motive is left for the police to take care of.
A member representing Oshimili North in the Delta State House of Assembly was also at the scene.
This is very inhuman. To murder a young lady like this, bury her face down, this is wickedness in high places. It is terrible. Please, I just can't stand it.
For now, the police say investigations are still ongoing to unravel the mystery behind her death and the motive of her killers. But the family is asking that the perpetrators be brought to justice quickly.
To the seasonal rainfall, the warning by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency that over 100 local government areas along the River Niger may experience heavy rainfall that could lead to flooding is not news to indigents of some communities in Bayelsa State, as they are no strangers to devastating flood. They've always suffered from annual flooding in their communities.
This is Odi community in Kolokuma Ukpokuma local government area of Bayelsa State, South Nigeria. Odi is famous for the massacre that took place here in November 20, 1999, when armed men killed several Nigerian policemen. A predominantly Ijaw town, Odi community is also known for its flooding problems, which occur annually. In the 2020 annual flood outlook, Bayelsa, among other states in the Niger Delta, is expected to experience river and coastal flooding owing to its proximity to rivers Niger and Benue, a prediction that makes a community like Odi more at risk.
Every year, flood dey pursue us for here. Some houses don't come out safe. Every year with a knock up bed. Sometimes our children they fall from the bed itself. So make federal government come do this thing for us. We don't tire, we don't suffer safe.
Less than 15 years ago, this part of the Odi River used to be dry land with vehicles passing through and buildings erected on it. But with each flooding incident, a bit more of the Odi land is washed away.
Before, this is our landing jetty. Water can carry and come out. Please, government, come and help us.
Aside from the homelessness the flooding may bring, scarcity of food and widespread hunger may also be experienced as farmers begin harvesting their crops due to the fear of losing them to the flood.
Because of water, we dey come out am.
Now go to the best. They suffer for water, they need the help us.
In Ogbogoro community, Yenagoa local government area, the situation seems to be the same. As the waters rise, more land mass is eroded. This mother of 10 is afraid that she may wake up one day to find her property floating on water.
Every year I saw the place they cut they go until now I don't remain only in one room. And me and my children then there for here. I no get where I go and I still risking myself there for this place. They wait for government.
Although residents in both communities are no strangers to the dangers of flooding, they reiterate their call to the state government to come and help them mitigate the effects.
Meanwhile, the Kano State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed that 4 people have been killed and over 5,200 houses destroyed due to flooding in Rogo and Danbata local government areas of the state. The Executive Secretary of the agency, Mr. Saleh Jili, who confirmed the incident, disclosed that 2 persons lost their lives and 200 houses were destroyed in Rogo, while 2 other persons and over 5,000 houses were destroyed by flood in Danbata. According to him, the agency had distributed relief items worth 3.5 million naira to the affected persons to alleviate their suffering. Over 300 suspected drug dealers have been arrested with 460 kilograms of cannabis sativa, tramadol, tablets, and other drug substances in Katsina State. The suspects were arrested from January 2020 to date by officers of the State Command of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA. The State Commandant of the agency disclosed this in Katsina when he paid an advocacy visit to the state government to appreciate its support to the agency and solicit for more. Meanwhile, the Deputy Governor says the state will continue to give its support for the fight against the misuse of drugs.
We are very much aware that Katsina State was or is probably still on the drug trafficking route into Nigeria. And we went into action immediately because we struck at the very root of it, which was the number of warehouses that were destroyed in Djibouti. This was well known. And since that time, we have taken very proactive decisions with regards to drugs. For example, you no longer see the people that sell drugs on trace along the streets or even villages. You no longer see the drug merchants in our markets. We've all dealt with that. And there is no wonder that really Katsina has now been not the topmost, but it has reduced greatly its drug addiction.
To education, members of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, Adamawa State Chapter, have protested what they describe as the wrongful sacking of 100 members of staff by the outgoing rector of the Polytechnic, Dr. Sadiq Yahya, The members of the union, led by its chairman, made this allegation at a press briefing at the campus of the institution in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. The members accused the rector of refusal to implement the Polytechnic Act 2019 as directed by the president, financial mismanagement, intimidation and favoritism, amongst others.
We want the whole world to know that this man has finished Federal Polytechnic movie. So if you're familiar with the Polytechnic system, there was a time, there was this in the called Contis 15 movement, where staff were moved, when government outsourced level 1, and then you start from level 2. So every staff that is in level 2 moves to level 3 upwards. So it is called Contis 15 migration. There was a letter from the minister who said other schools were crying that they are facing challenges, that they could not pay. The minister wrote and said, okay, those schools who are facing challenges should please suspend it until after a verification by the ministry. Now, after some week, 2 weeks to be precise, the minister wrote another letter and said, okay, please, those schools that are stopped, please continue paying. Sadiq refused to pay that money.
What is maltreatment when he promoted 600 staff in 2014? He promoted 600 staff in 2017. What is maltreatment? When he sent large number of us to go on master's degree and third degrees respectively, uncountable. What is there? If you talk about dismissing academic staff or staff generally, it is a process. A committee must be set up. The person affected must be invited, must be asked questions, must be given permission to defend himself. Then the report will be presented before the management. In turn, the management will prepare a memorandum, send it to council. If it is worthy, they approve and dismiss him. That's the end. What is the essence of pointing and accusing finger on one individual? If truly you know how government operates.
To housing, one of man's major needs is having a place to call home. But research shows that this has been a major challenge for many in this country. Although some residents have benefited from low-cost housing schemes in the past, many argue that it's still a far cry from meeting the needs of the people. In this report, our correspondent, Titilayo Aberowo, takes a look at the housing deficit in Lagos State.
A 2012 estimate by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria has a deficit of 17 million houses and requires 700,000 homes to be built annually, compared to less than 100,000 currently being constructed. This perhaps explains why the federal government is trying to plug the gap with a projection of 300,000 units within the next 12 months.
We are building houses directly through the ministry in 34 states. We are filling the first phase of that.
Lagos, the commercial nerve center of the country, is challenged in this area, with a deficit of 8 million houses. Yet, the state faces an ever-increasing number of dwellers, which has become a basis for a responsive housing policy.
We need to replicate development like this in Badagry. We need to replicate in Epe. We need to replicate in Ikorodu.
These are new schemes. Some of the previously built homes can be found in areas like Mautu, Ijaye, Abeson, Alaka, and many others. The Abeson estate alone has over 4,000 housing units. The initiative was conceived decades ago as a solution to the perennial accommodation problem in the state back then. Constructed over 40 years ago, most of these houses are falling apart and surrounded by stagnant water due to lack of proper drainage networks.
This is Amu Ward of Infestac Extension in Mautu. This particular building has been in this present state for about 3 years now. Occupants of each flat had no choice than to move out of their comfort zone due to the dangers posed by the structure. Some residents wonder why the government has not done anything concerning this building.
I've been living in this estate since 1978. So when the government came to come and do some demolition, some of the pillars they used in amending the block, the trailer and the weight of the noise of the trailer weakened the block.
The flood is nothing that we can even talk about.
At the Alaka area, what stares us in the face is not different from what we saw at Mautu. The Ikponri estate looks better compared to others.
We normally paint when necessary. We paint the outside. There are some people who don't care about that.
The state government says it's aware of the situation and working on how to put some of the structures back in shape.
We are working on Alaka. The problem we are having and we want to solve in-house is trust in governance. We are looking at possibility of, building and moving them, we do it gradually.
As the state government works on possible ways to upgrade these projects, many hope that the more modern Lagos homes currently being allocated will not suffer the same fate decades from now. Titilayo Haberewu, Channels Television News.
And to infrastructure in Benue State, Governor Samuel Otom of Benue is promising better infrastructure to communities around the Zaki Biam International Yam Market to boost trade and commerce. The governor made the pledge in Ukum during the commissioning of the Zaki Biam Beje Afia 47-kilometer road to link the communities and enhance transportation of goods and services. The governor also commissioned the Mbaton Amafu Rural Electrification Project that serves over 18 communities. He also commissioned the reconstructed Central Primary School in the area.
Motorists and other road users can now safely move their agricultural produce using the Zakibiam Beji Afia Road, which serves the popular Zakibiam International Yam Market in Ukum local government area of Benue State. The feat is enabled by the completion of the 47-kilometer road, which was started by the governor's predecessor, to enable farmers enjoy government investment in social amenities.
Construction of roads is very key. And so for you to have considered government as a continuous process and went ahead, even at the time that me and you were not sitting together to complete this road, meant that you are a man who had the people at heart.
Governor Otom assures the people of Ukum of more projects as a show of his appreciation for their loyalty and support.
Like you said, government is a continuum. So the projects I'm undertaking today are may not complete all, but I expect that the government will stop abandoned projects. Any government that comes will continue. After all, it's the same dividends of democracy that we provide to people, whether it's a different government.
From the road project, the team moves to the site of the Mbaton Amafu Rural Electrification Project, which has the capacity to serve about 18 communities in Katinala local government area. The governor, who is accompanied by other political and traditional leaders, also inspects the newly reconstructed Central Primary School, Katinala. Here he takes the students on the COVID-19 awareness campaign.
On behalf of the people of Katinala, Ukum Logo, I want to commend you and assure you of our extreme loyalty to your administration. You have demonstrated the feat. You have protected the people of Benue State. You have gone further to enhance the standard of living of the people. Because education is a very important tool for national development and integration.
Done with the commissioning of the projects, the governor seeks for the cooperation of the people to guard against vandalizing the facilities.
To Anambra State, as part of his resolve to uplift the traditional institutions in Anambra, the governor, Willie Obiano, has distributed 151 SUVs, sports utility vehicles of innocent brand, to traditional rulers in the state. At a ceremony in Awka, Governor Obiano appealed to their royal fathers to continue to carry themselves with dignity, as they are the embodiment of the culture and tradition of the people.
It appears as a convoy arriving at the Dr. Alex Ekweme Square in Awka, but that's not the case. These are 151 vehicles to be distributed to the traditional rulers in Anambra State. Guests gather at the venue to witness it, and the arrival of the state governor, Willie Obiano, signals the commencement of the ceremony. The gesture from Governor Obiano is in recognition of the roles which traditional rulers play in the communities, as well as the need to accord the traditional institutions the dignity and prestige they deserve.
From the beginning of his administration, he decided to make the traditional rulers, to make them a bedrock, a foundation of his administration.
Governor Obiano commends their efforts in ensuring development at the grassroots while tasking them to maintain peace and security in their domains.
My administration has been at the forefront in seeing after the welfare and well-being of our traditional rulers and traditional institutions. Over the years, we ensure that their remuneration and upkeep is well above all the statutory requirements that enables them to perform their duties. It is expected that air-conditioned innocent SUVs, which we are presenting today, will be useful for the royal fathers in coordinating affairs within their domain. I therefore charge them to continue to keep the peace in their various domains and by extension throughout our dear state.
After handing over the cars, the Obi of Onitsha, His Royal Majesty Nnaemeka Achebe, acknowledges the gesture, pledging the support of the traditional rulers to the state government.
All the Anambra traditional rulers will support you. We have always been behind you, and going forward, we will continue to support you as you continue in your administration.
Apart from the welfare of the traditional rulers, the vehicles which were manufactured in Nnewi, Anambra State, are also expected to encourage local production in the state.
And now let's get down to brass tacks of business news. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. The Central Bank of Nigeria has set a maximum of 10 billion naira as loan for obligors allowed to access its 250 billion naira intervention for the gas sector. A guideline issued by the Apex Bank on Saturday states that manufacturers, processors and wholesale distributors with a working capital of 500 million naira shall access the loan based on their activities. It notes that the low level of investment on the sector had triggered minimal production and utilization of compressed national gas and liquefied petroleum gas as clean alternative domestic energy source in the country. The CBN adds that it launched the fund to help boost investment in the gas value chain as part of measures to increase financing to the critical sectors of the economy. Meanwhile, the Naira is expected to strengthen further after several foreign exchange interventions by the central bank to clear demand backlog for the dollar by investors. The forex reserves grew to $35.67 billion this week, with the Naira falling against the dollar to 385 Naira 67 kobo at the INE window, but strengthened to 477 Naira in the parallel market. The financial regulator has commenced a gradual dollar sell after halting supplies due to lockdown measures enforced to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Analysts expect that the Naira will appreciate further in the medium to long term due to a resumption of sales to Bureau de Change operators and the commitment towards exchange rate unification. It's still the earnings season for Tier 1 banks as Zenith Bank has announced its audited results for the half year ended June the 30th, 2020, with a profit after tax of 103.8 billion naira. According to the bank's audited statement of account presented to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, an interim dividend of 30 kobo per share has been proposed to shareholders. Similarly, gross earnings grew by 4% from 332 billion naira to 346 billion naira, driven by year-on-year growth in non-interest income to 116 billion naira in the first half of this year. The growth in gross income and the decline in interest expenses is capped in a 2% growth year-on-year of profit before tax, which increased to 114 billion naira. Earnings per share also increased by 17% to 3 naira 30 kobo from the 2 naira 83 kobo reported in the first half of 2019. The bank also recorded growth in the total deposit of 15% to 4.9 trillion naira, largely driven by a 41% increase in retail deposits. The statement adds that the bank has been able to keep its non-performing loan at 4.7% despite a 14% growth in gross loans in the year. The governor of Ekiti State, Kaide Fayemi, is advocating the need to set up special trade zones in the state across the country as a way to tackle unemployment. Governor Fayemi, who stated this at a meeting with the managing director of the Nigeria Export Processing Zone Authority in Abuja, says his government is working hard to establish a special trade zone in the state that will enhance the opportunities it has in areas of education and agriculture.
It's a really wonderful opportunity for us in Ekiti to engage with you and your team with a view to ensuring that we attain the status of a special economic zone, but one that is primarily directed to a knowledge economy for us in Ekiti, where we have two main products we sell to the world. Knowledge is one. The second is agriculture. So you have all other type of economic zones, free zones that NEPSA licenses and authorizes. But a service zone that is knowledge-based is not one that is common. But for us in Ekiti, that's all we sell.
For us in Nigeria right now, we are battling with unemployment. We cannot do anything about it unless we continue to deepen our industrializations and get more of our youths to be employed in factories. Knowledge, like the governor said, is a very huge sector that we have hardly tapped anything from it.
And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Tenny. Still ahead on the news at 10. Australian police arrest dozens of anti-lockdown protests attended by hundreds nationwide. Please stay with us.
TV.com has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku.
Now in tennis, Serena Williams has overcome an early scare to defeat fellow American Sloane Stephens and move into the last 16 of the US Open. Serena lost the first set convincingly before rallying to dominate the next two, triumphing 2-6, 6-2 and 6-2 inside a near-empty Arthur Ashe Stadium. The 38-year-old, gunning for a record-equaling 24th Grand Slam singles title, will play Greece's Maria Sakkari for a place in the quarterfinals. That will be all on sports news. Back to you, Lindy.
Thank you, Kaide. Australian police have made dozens of arrests amidst anti-lockdown protests attended by hundreds nationwide. In Melbourne, the centre of Australia's outbreak, about 300 people marched in defiance of tough measures that have been in place for a month after protests took place in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews condemned the event as unlawful and selfish. Here's more on this and other developments on our COVID-19 Global Update.
In the Australian state of Victoria,
anti-lockdown protesters gathered in Melbourne, chanting freedom and human rights matter amid heavy police presence. As hundreds of people ignored social distancing restrictions, the demonstration later turned violent. The police arrested about 15 people and issued more than 150 fines for lockdown breaches.
It is not safe, it is not smart, it is not lawful. In fact, it is absolutely selfish for people to be out there protesting. The only protest we should be engaged in, the only argument, the only fight we should be engaged in is against this virus. Let's not any of us do anything that might jeopardise this strategy. Let's not any of us do anything that might see more coronavirus cases rather than less.
Smaller rallies were held elsewhere in the country. In Europe, campaigners from all over Italy also staged a rally to protest against anti-COVID-19 safety measures. Many gathered in Rome to object rules enforcing the wearing of face masks. Scotland also saw its share of anti-lockdown protests. Coronavirus skeptics, vaccine conspiracy theorists, and those opposed to the compulsory wearing of face masks staged a rally outside the Scottish Parliament. It comes as figures showed almost 8,000 people tested positive for the virus this week in Scotland. In other developments, India's total coronavirus cases has surged beyond 4 million, making it the third country in the world to surpass that mark, following the United States and Brazil. The country reported 86,432 new cases in the past 24 hours, a global daily record. And finally, schools in Iran have reopened to 15 million students after 7 months of closure. Students had to wear face masks, have their temperatures checked, wash their hands, and disinfect their shoes before entering the building.
And the main news again. International flights finally resumed today at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, following suspension over COVID-19 concerns in March. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide Mokoli.